White as an angel, popular as a king, it doesn't even mean that you have a good ending. Griffith, as we know, was a beloved character in and out of the story of Berserk. He was the brother in arms of the protagonist Guts, and they seemed inseparable as blood brothers bound by fate. There was something special that attracted the eye of all other people. Even something supernatural appeared to follow and protect Griffith. To become king was his ambition, and his actions pointed towards an intelligent, firm and caring character, towards those that were under his command, yet manipulative, vicious and merciless towards those that stood in his way. It was a duality of human nature that took place in Griffith's heart. Evil versus good. For every good goal Griffith achieved, 2 evils were done. Until the border of balance broke, Griffith's torture had pushed him in the abyss. He found himself in physical suffering, an able body and speechless world, which in turn exhausted his mental stability, turning him resentful, hopeless and fragile. Maybe it's a mistake, a robbing of the soul disguised in a promise of health and transcendence. Griffith came back not so long after the eclipse to Guts so that he could see if he would feel any emotion by seeing the face of one of his victims and most close person. But Berserk's world grants its chosen ones the blood and souls of the sacrificed. The own soul of that person then becomes distorted in a concoction of essence and blood. At that point, the individual, now God, is not human anymore. Whatever the deity is, it is a manifestation that has grown from the choice of a mere human, defective, flawed, and deficient. Who should you hate then? The new demon god, the human with the decision, the world around him? Torture is a villain with a utopian plan ultimately better than an ant of a human being. Is destiny really so that evil must coexist in this world, and we must accept that some will become villains and some their counterparts? Because only in the dark is light most visible and noticeable. If you're enjoying these philosophical thoughts, stay for the parts about God's status and kings falling from grace. And also please subscribe and like. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said it in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens, I will rise my throne above the stars. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. Isaiah and Ezekiel are passages in the Old Testament that respectively refer to the king of Babylon and the king of Tyre. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made the spectacle of you before kings. The king of Babylon is historically known as Nebuchadnezzar II. Adopting an aggressive expansion policy, he succeeded in conquering a lot of his neighbors, so much so that he was praying to have no opponent from horizon to sky. In addition to being a brilliant tactician and strategist, Nebuchadnezzar was prominent in international diplomacy. He was actually viewed in Jewish tradition predominantly in a positive light, as he is said to have protected Jews, one of whom was the prophet Ezekiel. As for the king of Tyre, he supplied Israelite king Solomon with men and materials for the Jewish temple at Jerusalem. Less is known of him because of him living almost 1,000 years before Christ, but it was known that the king was in friendly relations with the people of God, the Israelites. While the biblical accounts written by the apostles tell a moral story about the downfall because of pride and sin, independent historical sources cannot confirm that either the king of Babylon or of Tyre ever fell out of grace. Nebuchadnezzar The second even built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which was one of the ancient world's wonders. Similar to the story of Guts and Griffith. If we were to hear the story of the Apostle Guts, who was merely marked but not consumed, how can we believe him that the great king of Falconia, Griffith, ever did wrong, when not one historical account points to that event? It is extremely doubtful that if any individual could ascend to the position of God, he or she wouldn't do it. Now, tragically enough, if you are destined to become it in Berserk, you would have to sacrifice everyone around you in a moment of utmost struggle and contempt for human existence. Mother, father, friends and lovers. They revert to their fundamental prey status and die by being devoured by beasts that terrify to the core. One decision makes you a villain in that moment. Saying yes to the eclipse. Or probably die with the rest of them. Or even worse, live alone in a shell of a body. The question of what if is tempting. Am I the hero of the world if I continue my great ideal, even if I'm the villain of my story? Can I let them all go? Is it possible for me to live through the grief? Or maybe gods don't feel that emotion anymore. In the end, maybe letting them go with the thought for good and justice for the rest of the world would justify my act. So, if even it pains me seeing their faces strained with pain as their bodies are twisted by monsters, I would be born again for the better future of the world. In greatest of hopes, in that moment of decision, I would hope their souls would grasp the potential for good. And in the greatest of regrets, in that moment of decision, I would hope that their death is quick and not spilled with agony. Griffith never explicitly says in a manner of humility that he is merely a human. We see it and he experiences his limits, but he never admits it. That is the fault of such people. They might reach their vision, but at what cost? Is the cost of the lives of those you most love a sacrifice worth paying for, something that might or might not come to fruition? The present in exchange for the future.